Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Another day's journey, so glad about it and so grateful for your joining for another Real Talk with Pastor Waller. I am so excited today that we're going to be talking with Commissioner Kevin Bethel here in Philadelphia. He gives leadership to our police force. And we're going to just be talking about what's going on in the community. How can we partner? What is the relationship that the church should have with the community and with policing? And what is policing under Kevin Bethel's leadership? So that I'm excited about. I'm also want to remind you that we're getting ready for a church meeting on Monday. And so church meeting at Enon, it really is a big old financial report. It's exciting. We are getting ready to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Enon all next year, and we are paying off this building. We're paying this building off 10 years early. Bless God. I am so excited about it, and I want you to hear all about it so that you can also hear about what we're going to be doing as relates to celebration. If you think the pastor's 30th anniversary year was a celebration, and it was, I turned 60, been here 30 years, and married to Sister Waller 35 years. But next year, this 150th, that we all have journeyed together, it's going to be major. And so you'll hear a little bit about it Monday, so I'm looking forward to it. Well, guess what? He's the man, the myth, the legend. He was here, went to the school district, and then came back, and he is now making a real impact in the life of policing. It is Commissioner Kevin Bethel. Welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Alyn. It's an absolute honor to be here.
Thank you so much, man. I have seen you and known your work since the days under Ramsey, and I just bless God for who you have been, what you have been doing. But now you are in the main seat. You are the commissioner of the police here in Philadelphia. I really want to just dive right in. You know, everyone's talking about what's happening, from some people's perspective. Violent crime has gone down. Crime is going down. Can't really say that to the mother whose child got shot last night. But there are some real statistics. From your perspective, tell us a little bit about the state of Philadelphia and crime.
Yeah, I mean, the state of Philadelphia, the crime in Philadelphia is coming down significantly.
Okay.
Right? And come back and we said Commissioner Ramsey and Commissioner Ross as well.
Yes, that's right.
Had a great leader in both of them.
That's right.
But part of the work, in 2022 or 2021, was one of the most significant years. 562 homicides. That's a number we would never have ever seen in the history of the city of Philadelphia. And so there has been this trajectory of it, coming down across the city. Today, I mean, we're down 18%, and we're really in a great place where we may do well better than when we had 240, I believe, 7 homicides in 2009. And so homicides are coming down. But to your point, the violence we saw over the last 3 years and 4 years, 1 year or 2 years, we're having 2 good years back to back. It's not going to change all of that. It's going to be this consistent flow. We're seeing a reduction in our shootings. We're seeing a significant increase in our clearance rates, where the homicides at 84% of our homicides are being cleared, a large percent of them in this year. What is most significant, too, is our shootings. Before I came back to the department, they created a shooting investigation group. That group has been doing significant success. 38% of our shootings are being cleared. What does that look like? When I was here when I left, I think we were at 14%. And so, a lot of the city across many of our categories, retail theft, which was an area of significant focus, is down, and other categories as well. And so the state of the city, we are trending in a very, very positive space. And I attribute that to a plethora of activities underway.
Okay.
I mean, I often tell people at the school district, as you described, and
Yeah.
I watched the kids when they came back. Oh my God. like you knew something happened when the system shut down. So we do know how
Okay.
important everything is to the ecosystem of
Yeah.
going on in this city. And so to see all of the elements leaning into together, first starting with a mayor, someone who comes into the city and says safety is paramount. That's Maslow's theory, right?
Right.
Safety and health and food and shelter, and all of those are so key. That sets the tone for the city, because then that makes us sit up. All of us sit up naturally and say, oh, wouldn't that mean somebody's going to be watching? Right. And then really leaning into the work as relates to the men and women in the department, doing a phenomenal job, executing our strategy. But again, working within those partnerships, whether it be, our violence interrupter programs, our community-based programs, all of the activity. I've been at it for a long time. I'm entering my almost 40 years in this space next year, 39 years this year.
Okay.
It's the first time I really feel this energy. Everybody's rowing the same, even with my federal partners, we're all rowing together, right? There's not this conflict. Everybody has a piece of it. Everybody wants who's got, I think it's just this collective will. And I think as the numbers have come down, it gives you an opportunity to come up for air,
Gotcha.
and really be much more focused on our crimes, particularly our violent crime. 560 homicides. Imagine what our homicide detectives were overwhelmed. Now you come back, with 143, at this point now, and you're like, they've really been able to really emphasize and work hard. And so I think there's a lot of things in the process, but I think it starts with leadership. It starts with a mayor setting the tone across the city of what our expectations are, coming with a plan to the table, building off that plan to execute on it, and then taking some of the things that we had done under Commissioner Ross and Commissioner Ramsey and really reemphasizing those things. And I think we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you for that. And thank you for clarifying. When I was making reference to Commissioner Ramsey, I was making reference to when I remember meeting you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
Obviously,
absolutely.
You and Ross were the two right next to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I appreciate and have always appreciated both of you. Commissioner Ross was a member of this church.
Yes, sir.
And we celebrate him as well. When we talk about policing, I guess I want to ask, how has policing changed in light of the George Floyd, Mike Brown stuff? I mean, we go back to the Mike Brown killing, George Floyd. Different people were talking about defunding the police, which was never a cry coming out of black churches, really, and black people. But how has police reform happened, or has it happened? What's different about policing in light of those things?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I mean, part of what we have to do and part of what we've done is resetting of where we want to be as an organization, recognizing that it was important. We have to evolve now from a policing perspective. The funding coming back from the department, I had to recognize when I walked back to the department, they were probably some of the most devalued folks who felt like no one cares, like that no one wants policing in this space. I mean, because you got to, for quite some time, there was this constant drumbeat, even though that, as you indicated, no one was saying that. And when you saw the Pew studies and other studies, they were like, well, our black community was not saying that. They were saying we want good constitutional policing, but we're not saying that we don't want you in the community. So part of what we've had to do is really rebuild the department and rebuild them, first starting with their morale and working hard to make them feel valued again, make them feel that their work is important, that their work matters. That has been my work from the time I walked in the door to do that. But also I was away from the department for 7 years. That stepping away, I got out of the incubator and I was like, oh my goodness. You know, I would work with one of the most phenomenal leaders I've ever been around was, Dr. Haidt, and I would learn, like, you don't have to lead with fear. Like, I come from a paramilitary, that space organization where fear, get it done, you will get it done. If not, and now I'm sitting in a room with folks and they love each other. Like they care about each other. Like there's no anger in the room, right? There is, how do we make this thing work? And so part of me being away after 7 years is bringing that back to the department. I come back to this department as a servant leader this time, right? And I come back trying to be a transformational leader, and part of that is the mayor often talks about you can't be what you can't see, right? And so starting to bring some of those elements into the department, compassion and empathy, that we oftentimes, those are soft skills, right? But that's the piece that I felt being away from the department was missing at the school district, where you can have compassion with young people and not lock them up and not do those things with them. Last year we had 75 kids arrested in the school district. We used to do 1,600. So you can see that shift, how you can make those shifts. And so part of that is bringing those things into the department. Example, we're doing a Handle with Care program where we, starting in North Philadelphia, one of our toughest areas, where young people who are traumatized or see trauma, cop comes to the house and dad's been domestic or a homicide or a shooting, and now those officers will notify the school that a kid saw some type of violence that day, so they can. People are like, oh, that's not policing, but yes, it is. Most recently we created a victim advocacy group within the department. Okay. Right. So I have 10 victim advocates. I have Ayana Green, who came as an executive director, who's not a police officer, comes into the work for us as an executive director. Where now, when there's a homicide, we, the police department, and the advocates who work in the Philadelphia Police Department on my payroll, who are non-police officers, reach out to those families, make sure that they understand what's going on, where can we support them, communicate. So if they need to have information, for the longest time there was this gap between the communication. And so, we're doing a lot of these types of things now, bringing more civilians into our space. I just hired a executive director of our training, who are now coming to our academy, who's not a police officer. Okay. I have almost, my budget is almost $877 million, and we have not really built a robust professional development, right? And then we wonder, and part of that now is bringing somebody in who has that skill set to build our suite of professional development. Because if we want to be, as I say, the finest police department in America, we have to train to that. And so a lot of the work, the evolution for me personally was, for a long time, Dr. Alyn, we've always been told what to do. The paradigm would shift: tough on crime, soft on crime, in between. Yeah. I think the mayor comes in and sets the template, and then we sit there and say, no, for the first time, we're going to own. What should this be? What should it look like? And so I'm trying to now create a blended department. I have multiple executive directors on the department who are not police executives, who are bringing in that outside, the stuff that I saw, the stuff that gets me jazzed now and says, hey, we don't, yes, the paramilitary structure is good when we have to move, command and control, but that's stifling us now. And that's the conversation I have with my men and women. We have Imagine If series, where we bring folks in to talk to our folks who are not from the police department, so they can imagine what it's like to lead an organization like a business now. Yeah. Right? We can't just kind of, and I think that is what has hurt in policing. That's my personal opinion, is that because we stay in this narrow bucket and not expanding, it's creating that resistance. And so part of my work now is to break that. And that's why, we created the 5-year strategic plan. And I know to be able to, for the first time, create a 5-year strategic plan that's bottom up, that everyone in the city is involved with. David Zaga, another executive director, I stole him away from the school district. He did he did their strategic plan. Right. And to help me build out, what does the department look like over the next 5 years? And how do we and then if we all agree that this is the plan, and this is based, keying off of the mayor's executive orders and her plan that she did while she was leading, going through the election process, that we will first time set us on a course. Man. And so I have a big vision, man. I'm aspirational, but I come back because I love the work. I can walk away tomorrow because I'm blessed, and so coming back, sitting here, I'm just trying to take us to a place where people, for the first time, see us for who we really are. Yeah. Thank you for that. Those that are listening know that I am a
a frustrated undercover police
Well, we
officer.
know that. We've known that for years.
Man, I would, if I were not pastoring, I would want to be a police officer. I wanted to be a chaplain with the police. In fact, we had a special chaplains unit a long time ago. And I think that there are others like me. And for the young person out there who's wondering how to become a police officer, how many police officers do we have? Do we have enough? Do we need more? How do you become a police officer? What is that process?
Yeah, I think we are down officers. Has been very public around that. We're down about 1,200 police officers. And part of that was coming through COVID, the great challenges of trying to put a class through. Some efforts, obviously, when the department has been depressed across the nation, many of our young people were not coming into the department. But I think for the first time, have been really able to reset that. Our team at the recruitment team and our background unit have done a phenomenal job. So we are putting in upwards of 50 officers every 6 weeks. We face some challenges because so many of our officers were near retirement age. And going back to your conversation earlier about the funding and the riots and the civil unrest, many of my officers decided that that was it for them. And so many of them decide to sign up for our drop program, which allows them to retire, remain on the department for 4 more years, and then leave. We're almost through that process. It'll take us a few years to get back up to our numbers. Today, I asked, for young people, I think through, I looked through the lens of my daughter. I got a 21-year-old daughter. Many of the young people will come here for service now, right? I know we look for the warrior but the guardian. The warriors always come.
Got you.
Right, but part of what we've recognized now is that there's not as many warriors out there, as the military is drawn down, and and so we have to refocus our setting. I could teach you to be a warrior like you are, right? I know if you go to battle, you be ready, right? But you're serving, right? You're a guardian, right? So part of what we can do is we can train you to be the warrior when you need to be. But 99.9% of my men and women will never fire their weapon, other than going up to the academy, right?
Exactly.
But we've always trained to that smaller number. Now, part of what I'm trying to get young people is to come into the department to serve. What does that look like? And so we encourage them to come in. I'm forgetting my website. They can go to our website and link onto our website to be able to come in. They go through a reading test, and then they have the physical fitness test. And through the work of the mayor and others, we were able to make some adjustment in their physical fitness to get in early, but they still have to test out. And if you look at the salaries today, I mean, we're fortunate. The mayor talks about is not what you say is what you do. And to be reality that for the first time, when I first came on the job back in 1986, I was making $26,000. And I'm sitting there saying, "You give your life for $26,000? You're crazy." And you give your life for anything. But today, with the salary increases that we're receiving, many of our officers will be in the 6 figures after 5 years.
Wow.
And that's it's a blessing to be able to start to compete with our neighboring counties, but also recognizing what they endure and what they give.
Exactly.
I wear Jamie Roman's band on my arm, who was killed last year. And to sit with his young family, his young son and daughter and his wife. It just reminds me of what they give for this work, and so part of that is making sure that they feel valued. One,
that's right,
by conversations, but also by compensating them in the salary. So I think we're really, really for the first time, I think heading in a good direction, and then we can keep that going. I think we'll continue, and we're getting young men and women from the neighborhoods. So, many of our more challenging neighborhoods, they are coming on the job. And so that's really exciting to see the young people are starting to re-engage, because when I came on, it was my buddies who brought me on. Hey, Kev, I said, you're a cop. I know I could be a cop, right? And so, those things are drawing us in. And so I think we're really headed in the right direction. And I would tell any young person in here, I sat on the stoop in West Philadelphia as a young kid, and here I am the police commissioner. And so it's an exciting place for us. It took me out of. I used to think I was poor until I became a cop, right? And then I walked in some doors and I said I was not poor. Miss Odessa Bethel did well by her 4 boys who she raised by herself, right? And I'm like, whoa, but it has risen me out of low income. It has made me, well, now everybody knows my salary, so I'm in upper middle class now, right? But it has walked me through that process,
Right.
put my kids through college.
Right.
My wife is a retired detective, and so
Okay.
we created this union, and she's an amazing woman. And so I tell them, if you're looking for a job that really can set you on course to
Yeah.
promotions and move through, come on board. I mean, yeah.
Thank you for that. I want to raise a question. Right now in our country, obviously, we are a very divided country, and we have a president that really wants to be a king. So this new move that he's making with trying to federalize the streets in D.C., threatening to do so in Chicago, we know that a lot of this is just political pandering. But there's very strong, real possibility that the president could identify a place like Philadelphia, even though every metric would suggest we're getting it under control, crime is down. But if the president were to federalize, if he were to send troops, what does that mean for you? How would you have to, or what would be your responsibility in that process?
Yeah, and I think we have thought through that, Dr. Weiler, as to what that could look like. Now, obviously, there's some hurdles, significant hurdles he has to do, because
That's right.
that activation comes through the governor, and we've activated the National Guard. First and foremost, I would tell first and foremost, many of these men and women who are National Guards didn't sign up for this. Right. And I know there's been this vitriol response to the militarization, but just be mindful that many of them are young men and women who signed up, to be a part of this activation force when there's civil unrest, hurricanes, those types of things, and they did not. I mean, so part of what they're doing is following orders. And sometimes I think they get this vitriol, like, who are they? You see them on TV. These are young kids who many times are just like, what am I doing here? And so part of what we made the decision and talking to my team is have a plan. So that's not get off guard, right? I mean, he's already publicly played his playbook, right? And so part of what we said is, if we were to have a surge, then we will have a plan. Here's where you want to go, right? If we're going to be forced to have them here, then where will we place them? What will we do with them? Where could they relieve our resources that we could be putting in the front line? Because we have to be careful. It wasn't only a few years ago, folks were calling for the National Guard to come to Philadelphia.
Right.
And that was becoming part of the political, landscape, and, in conversations, is the National Guard coming to Philadelphia, and rightfully so. The mayor and the governor said, well, that's not necessary, and we've been able to move effectively. And so recognizing that, I mean, I think having a plan, which I won't be able to reveal with your listeners, but we have a plan in preparation that if something happens, whether it be across the board, because if you saw in Washington, it's not just the activation of the National Guard; it comes with a plethora of other things. The part we find ironic is that you're only attacking blue states, but Detroit and other places across the nation, just because they're in blue, blue states, are kind of being taken off the list. Even though you can go to Louisiana and other places and other places and find just as much in those cities as well. But I would hope that doesn't happen. I think we has shown, and the mayor has shown, and the leadership of the city has shown that despite our challenges, we are accomplishers on our own, that we don't need. And the other part that I struggle with is this the conversation's been about over-policing. And so what I caution the audience is because if you look in Washington, some of those communities are like, be careful. Right? I mean, the immediacy of, having National Guard on your corners may make you feel good. And I understand how that could be for many of our citizens and the fear that it often says, but it comes at a cost. Right. And I think this is part of a bigger strategy.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we need to make sure that, we may be saying, come, but think the big picture. You start militarizing, putting the military across the nation, you're setting yourself up for something else that may be much bigger.
That's right.
And then what you're seeing. And I think people need to look bigger instead of this, hey, how long can they stay? These deployments are very, very expensive for them. I wish they would take those hundreds of millions of dollars and pour it into, helping the police departments.
That's exactly
there's, giving bonuses money for officers to come in, just as they're giving for their border. I mean, they're doing thousands and thousands of dollars, and tens of thousands of dollars to get border folks to come in.
Right.
Turn that money into us and say, hey, police department, how about if I give you X, Y, Z? We've done that in Clinton and others where they pay for cops to be put on the street, and helped us immensely with our financial issues and be able to take that burden off the cities initially for at least 3 or 4 years. So I think there's better ways for that money to be served, but we'll figure it out.
That's it. That's it. Well, listen, I want to thank you for being a part of this conversation. I do have one more question about how we who pastor churches, who have influence in communities, how can we be better partners for you? I'm grateful that every year I have the young Abrahams. They are 7 to 9-year-old boys, and we always bring in the police and the fire department, and you send me SWAT guys and the K-9 unit, and the boys get to pet the dogs, and they get real excited about that day. But what are some other ways from your perspective that the community can partner with the police to do violence interruption and to make this a better place from your perspective?
Yeah, I may not answer your question, but I'm going to answer your question, right? First and foremost, I think we have to recognize what you do already.
Yep.
I think I tell people, we always look at the glass half empty and never half full, right? And the reality is, I often tell folks, so much of what you do is having an impact on us already. Because we've seen it, right? When the churches during COVID, everything had to, didn't have folks in. I mean, I know we're doing online and, and that, but what it's like to be in. And so I think sometimes I want to give you and the church community just so much praise and credit for what you already do. It doesn't lead on Channel 6 in the morning. That young person that called you Dr. Wallen, Dr. Wallen called you Dr. Wallen. I apologize, Dr. Wallen, in this space and you talk him out of, hey, what are you doing?
Right.
You ain't going to see that anywhere.
Right.
And so
That's
much
true.
of that is happening. So many people come down your aisles and turn their self over to God, and no one talking about that. So I start there. The second part is I'm cautious now, because one of the things we have done in policing is told everybody what they should do. My next iteration of the version of the police department stopped doing that, and that's why we started to embark on a strategic plan. That's why we ask clergy and folks like yourself to be a part of that. Because I know that's been your frustration at times. Like, what is it? What do we want that?
Right.
And we never built that. Right. And so part of what I've said is no. I brought in, Commissioner Maisha Massey to come in to take over build out community partnership.
That's right.
Not relationship, partnerships. And part of that work now is building a strategic plan and asking you. And asking other clergy members, what do we want? What do you want? How do we connect ourselves better to these entities and not just make these assumptions?
Yeah.
I can't just walk in here with 50 guys who, and say, hey, here they are. Like, wait a minute, Like, I want to work with them, but I still have a congregation. I got people I got to answer to, right?
Right.
And so I think, and then we get frustrated. Oh, well, I think that's wrong. You know what I mean? And part of my coming back is, in a different way, is really building a bigger tent and asking those questions of the church now. Now we're getting ready to do an auxiliary unit. Now you would love that, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to bring in for the first time. We're going to watch what they do in New York and other places, and people want to get involved. And so we want to start to build out an auxiliary unit to people to be able to volunteer and support.
Man, I'm really excited about that. Let me tell you, you may not know this, but I was a guardian angel with Curtis Sleewa.
I know that.
Guardian angel. I was a guardian angel, and I was auxiliary police in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
And so I'm serious. I love thinking through how to do that stuff. And so thank you for that. Let me ask you this. Person down the street knows that there's an issue across the street. They are scared to death of it. They're scared to report it because they don't want the retaliation. Is there anything set up? Is there a way that I can do my civic duty but be protected so that I don't get caught up in it? How is there a place to call? Is there what does that person do? What does that mother, that father, that homeowner do to tell?
Yeah, I think in those cases, particularly when you have a more complex issue,
Yep.
that I think most time people get frustrated. I'm seeing something that's systemic, and I call 911. Well, you're not going to resolve that in that call, right? The officer's going to get a call. He's going to go. He's not going to be fully versed on what's going on.
Yep.
What I encourage the community to do is contact the captain and talk to the community relations officer.
Okay.
I think you know many of them who have
Yes.
come through, right, in the 14th district and others. And they have a community relations team. We have a crime prevention officer. We have a victim assistance officer. We have a community relations officer at 3 teams. And sit down with them and have that conversation about, hey, here's what's going on across the street. Here's what's happening. Here's what and give them that and be able to work that problem in a more problem-solving aspect than versus just this kind of one-off calls to 911, or sometimes they may call 311. I think that, to me, and when I always encourage when I meet people, here's what I do in those cases where they don't want to call in 911, but they really want to sit down and have that, to reach out to their district captain, reach out to their community relations team, sit down with them, have that conversation around those systemic issues. That's the best way, because then that'll plug us into the other services. Many of those community relations officers and community team do a phenomenal job across the city. They're pretty stable.
Okay.
So most captains, you love your community relations officer more than sometimes I go to places where they love their captain. Captain Gorm did your community relations officer leave. They're more plugged in to the process, and I think, and part of what we're about to build out under, and didn't share earlier with Deputy Executive Director Ayanna Green, was we're also bringing in folks who are going to be community workers with us who are not police officers. So we'll be hiring 10 community people. Stay tuned. It will be for that. She'll be leading that work. We're going to embed them in the communities to help us do some of that bridge work you're talking about. Yeah. So people are not comfortable talking to the police department.
That's
They'll
right.
be able to talk to my community liaison who's in the police department, but not a police officer. We think that is going to help us because part of that work will be to reach it out. But in addition to that, we're going to enhance our victim assistance work as well to be able to work with our victim assistance more strategically. So we have a big plan around that area. But I would just really encourage them for now to contact their community relations team at their district, share that information with them. Okay. Because it's so hard, as you know. I know when you were dealing with the issues down the street, you were sitting down with the team, you were talking about, your team was going over there doing walks, right? And being very strategic. Right. And that goes to my earlier conversation about, instead of asking, the question, telling you, your team was proactive, not just here, but in other parts of the city. How do we build that out? Gotcha. Like, how do we make that a more strategic across the city, across other, because everybody's kind of doing different things. And so I think that's a long-winded answer, but I'm hopeful that your audience receives that and understand that we want to work with them. None of this work happens without the community. My power, the power of policing, comes from the community. And it's my job in leading this organization, and blessed to be able to come back, and Mayor brought me back, is to make people feel valued in this space, be respected, do this work with compassion. And if we do this effectively, I pray that we not have another civil unrest. There's going to be a moment where we're going to have something bad happen. Right. It's just the reality of the work. But I'm hoping if we pour enough into this community and people see us in a different way, that they will, for the first time, say, oh, however, this is what this police department is doing, and I think the men and women that have been serving, that I'm blessed to come back and lead, I'm proud of them, proud of the work that they do, and hopeful that we keep going the right direction.
Thank you for that. This is Commissioner Kevin Bethel. He gives leadership to our police department. We are honored that you are serving our city at this time. Listen, crime is coming down. There's still a lot of problems. Violent crime is coming down. There's still a lot of hurt, but we are working at it. We're going to keep working at it. And then when we get them auxiliary police, going to give me a call.
I'm going to make you one of the Jefes.
There we go. There we go. Y'all heard it. You heard it. Amen. And when I come to church, have my stuff on.
Yeah, he will. He will.
All right.
I'm excited about that.
But so thank you all for joining. We're getting ready to pray for Commissioner Bethel. We're praying for all police officers. We are praying also today for all those who will gather tomorrow morning. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, I'm looking forward to seeing you in worship. I'm looking forward to us sharing together. And I'm praying for every pastor that is going to be preaching the gospel on tomorrow. So let's get ready to go to God in prayer. Thank you so much for sharing today. God, I love you. I bless you and I thank you. I thank you for Commissioner Bethel. I thank you for his unique perspective on policing, and I thank you for his strategic and strong leadership style. I thank you for his care for our community, and I thank you, God, that he is moving us in a right direction. Lord, I pray for those who are on both sides of this equation, for those that have been harmed and for those that are doing the harm. I pray for redemption in our community, and I pray that you would help us to be a part of the answer. So now, God, as we go throughout the rest of this day, we would that you go with us and stand by us. Protect Commissioner Bethel. Protect his family. Protect those under his care. And God, we'll be ever so mindful to give you all the praise, glory, and honor. It is through Christ, and for his sake we do pray. Let us all say, amen. Amen. Listen, love you much. Talk with you next week. God bless you and God keep you is my prayer.